Welcome back to the final episode of the history of TGX. And with our final episode, we will be of course covering the first TG reset, 1.15. 1.15 was a very turbulent time for the server, defined early on by division and comparison to its predecessor, TGN. However, as time went on, 1.15 found its own identity and started to become the massive popular server recognizable as TG. Again, welcome back to the history of TGX. Today, we'll be covering TG 1.15. Before we talk about 1.15, I'd like to get everyone up to speed with the timeline of things. TGX, as I've mentioned before, is an acronym that means many things, but has a pretty deep history. The idea of an acronym to describe this community and its Minecraft servers started with the acronym TGN, standing for Teen Gaming Nights. It was named this way because the community was made up of teenagers, the teenagers in question game, and these teenagers game at night. TGN itself was a community of teenagers from r/teenagers who played video games at events that higher-ups in r/teenagers would organize and connect people in the community with. This would later create the Minecraft server whose lineage you all know and love. TGN also had a sister community on the r/teenagers Discord, commonly referred to as TeenServe, that was also a sub-community of r/teenagers, but they're not really relevant to this story, so we're going to be ignoring them for a majority of these videos. What's important to know with TeenServe is that most things are done administratively by admins, moderators, and all other higher-ups on both r/teenagers and TGN that pertain to the community are done through TeenServe. The first TGN Minecraft server was launched in 2014 on the Minecraft update 1.7. After several months, activity on the server would slow down, and the administrators reset the world and updated the game, giving players a new world to be in with new blocks, items, mobs, and biomes to be able to use. This resetting of the world and the updating of the game made every new iteration of the server after 1.7 dubbed a reset, and the name of the reset would be the name of the update the server updated to, giving 1.7 the name 1.7, as it was on 1.7, and later resets followed this same trend. The confirmed resets that I know of after 1.7 were 1.8 in 2016, 1.12.1 in 2017, 1.12.2 in 2018, 1.13 in 2019, and 1.14 that same year in 2019. Although history is incredibly poorly documented up until later in the story, meaning that we don't really know much about these resets outside of the word of mouth of players who played on these servers years after they existed. The history of TGN and of r/teenagers would diverge, however, in an event sometimes referred to as Modgate. Modgate was an event on the 1.13 server reset of TGN, when suddenly 5 of the 9 moderators who moderated TGN were banned by Kero, then community director of r/teenagers. It was never explained why these moderators were banned until the release of the TGN master document. This document revealed that the author, or authors of the document, who only referred to themselves as TGN Wakanda Leaks, later revealed to be made up by at least 2 members, OG Bubby and iiEthan, were able to hack into TGN moderator Crunky's Discord account by stealing their token. Using access to this account, Wakanda Leaks were able to view private moderator chats and were able to discover the plot to end TGN. The document revealed many things, including the fact that moderators held disdains over many players in the community, and did things such as refraining to send ideas to administrator of the server, NSA, if the idea came up from a player that they didn't like. It also showed that Kero kept the player OG Bubby banned longer than they should have, despite moderators supporting their unbanning. The document also showed players' IPs being distributed amongst moderators. The biggest reveal of the document, however, was the uncovering of Kero's plan to restart TGN under a new administration with tighter rules, doing so to bring TGN closer to r/teenagers, while also attempting a cultural resetting of the server, as Kero believed that the TGN player base had become toxic and harmful to the community. This new server was to be called Teen Gaming Days, or so the document claimed. Later sources state that Teen Gaming Days was simply the name of the development server. not the actual planned name for the new server. Most damning of all, however, was the fact that Kero and the TGN moderation team planned on making this change behind the back of TGN administrator NSA, not including him in this new server. The release of this document sparked massive outrage in the TGN community, leading to mass bans of anyone who posted the document in TeenServe. Many rallied around NSA and protested the replacement of TGN. However, none of it changed anything. In September, TGN reset from 1.13 to 1.14, and a few months later, on December 22nd, 2019, Kero's new server, dubbed Teenagers Gaming, or TG for short, launched on 1.14. TG had roughly the same rules as TGN, now being under the authority of the new admin, ex-TGN moderator Muzak23. Two ex-TGN moderators also returned to moderate TG, those being Mario Foley and the Girl You Forgot, along with a new team of moderators. Several players from TGN were banned from TG, even before the server went up, the most notable of those being the likes of iiEthan, Creamy Noteblock, Prot5, Crunky, Nixel, and others, with none of them ever being unbanned on the server. Ancient Blade was the only one of this group to have been pre-banned, but later have their ban overturned. Within the first 2 days of the server's launch, the server was flooded with new players from the large amount of advertising done on r/teenagers, vastly outnumbering the returning TGN players. Within a few days, a large portion of the TGN player base had quit the server due to several factors, whether it had been a griefing ban, a disconnect in player bases, or the controversial introduction of PvP toggle, which I will talk about later. Overall, it had seemed like Kero had gotten what she wanted. A brand new server, with a brand new community, with many traces of TGN fading away. One difference between 1.15 and previous TGN servers was that the 1.15 server had amplified terrain, with huge mountains and steep valleys, making it difficult to build and traverse the landscape, leading to a lot of interesting builds and town shapes. This terrain is seen no better than in the 1.15 spawn, a huge, jagged, snowy mountain with a small wooden village built on top of it. Leaving spawn would force the player to either enter the nether and move to another location from there, or jump off the mountain, falling down hundreds of blocks to what would seemingly be their death. Fortunately, spawn protections allowed any player to achieve this without taking fall damage. The outer areas around the mountain show many builds built on a variety of elevations, along with long, winding pathways drawn out by players attempting to navigate the massive cliffs of the 1.15 world. The vibe of the area around spawn feels chaotic, but not as much as the Nether Hub, which you can find if you enter the portal at spawn. The Nether Hub in 1.15, unlike later resets, was not pre-built, leading to what is a small, cramped, tumultuous room of flags, signs, sounds, and blocks. The hub is unified by a more complex design than later resets, a 2-floor room connected by hallways leading up to more rooms. The design falls apart, however, due to griefs, extra blocks being added in places they shouldn't, and shops buying out the outer rooms, not mixing with the hub itself well. For those unaware what a Nether Hub is, the Nether Hub is the center of the Nether, with 4 branching ice pathways leading out in each cardinal direction known as the highways. Because of this, the Nether Hub is the center of transportation and is used to get from somewhere to anywhere in the overworld. The highways also contain shops and other public works projects off the sides of the road, centered around the hub, making the Nether Hub not only the center of transportation, but the center of commerce as well. Speaking of the highways, the Nether highways in 1.15 were much more built up than in previous resets, containing substantially more shops, builds, designs, and locations. This, combined with the much lower ceiling and shops encroaching on the highways, made the 1.15 highways much more cramped feeling than in previous resets. Shops opened stores right next to the ice highways made boat travel difficult, as boats often got snagged on the walls of shops or fell into them. The low roof also made elytra travel incredibly difficult, as players were forced into a very small window where any small movement up or down would cause a collision, forcing the player to the ground. These concepts both combine into the abhorrent creation, known as the West Highway Bend, where 140 blocks down the West Highway, either due to the acts of Dragon AM or a claim made by VTD or somewhere in between, forced the highway to curve sharply 7 blocks north. This obstacle was known for stopping any boats in their track, killing elytra flyers, and being a beloved mascot of the 1.15 server. What made the bend even more infuriating was that later on in the server's life, popular towns such as No Name, Westminster, Poland Springs, and the Public Guardian Farm were all located on the West Highway past the bend, forcing players to take the curve. The West Highway Bend was often attempted to be recreated on later TGX servers, often failing. Notable continuations are Sigma Turbine's North Highway Slime Block Jump on TGF 1.19 and the Antares West Highway Maze on TGF 1.20. Unlike later TG resets, 1.15 did not have many large towns immediately on the server starting. One notable one that was founded soon in the TG's life was Birchtown, founded just outside of spawn by player Sigma Turbine, who created the town and immediately left the server, not returning until the end of the server's life, where she would rejoin to destroy the town she founded. After Sigma leaving, the town would be pseudo-owned by players Cheese Addict and Bready Ready. With that, 2019 comes to an end as a new year begins in January 2020. Kicking off the year, one of the most debated and controversial topics ever created, as TG institutes a new server function known as PvP Toggle after a community vote. PvP Toggle is a function that allows any player to willingly choose whether they want to be able to take damage from other players or not, with all new players starting with this enabled. This effectively killed the heavily PvP and raiding culture of TGN, as the only players who played with PvP Toggle disabled were typically the raiders themselves, now finding themselves with no one to raid, or even attack, besides heavily armored and incredibly skilled other players, turning PvP from a culture of attacking anyone on a whim to a high-risk, low-reward sport that only a few other people participated in. PvP Toggle was heavily praised by new players who were able to take the limited danger of the server and used it to turn the server into an infrastructure-heavy, overall friendly server. On the other side, older players felt betrayed by this change, as their entire way of life for the past few years had been drastically shifted, with very little options to be able to recreate the same feeling on TG. Because of this, there was a mass exodus of TGN players from the server due to this new change, with some moving back to TGN, or some leaving the TGX community entirely. Many TGN players on TG acted out, and several were banned for breaking whatever rule they decided to break. Most notably, OG Bubby, who had been banned for bed bombing players on the Nether Highway. They would not be unbanned until the final moments of TG's life. While all of this is going on, the new TG players began to settle into the new server, with two of the most popular towns at the time being Haven and Westminster, the latter being founded by a player named Cooopl. These early towns were surprisingly able to move into the jagged environment of 1.15 very well, and were able to house the large amount of players coming into the server. However, by the time of the next month, these new towns would begin to lose popularity when faced with the new town of Simp Central, founded by players Griftstar Zero and Boss Battle. Simp Central was able to bring in new players as it shared many things with other towns at the time, with Haven, Westminster, and Simp Central all being located on the same highway. Simp Central, however, managed to rise above the two towns due to the frequent advertising via chat and the name Simp being a popular meme at the time. Near the end of March, the Aether group would be created by Kristalic and Voodoo BR, which would be known for being a highly sought-after town to join, as it was filled with some of the most productive farms and trading hall on the server. The town would be constructed in the end, one of the only major towns on TG to do so. Near the end of February, a new group called the Yellow Shadow Collective was formed by a player named War Heroes Inc. This group behaved very similarly to the TGN Town Leaders group, also known as the United Nations, back in 1.13, being an alliance of several towns on the server, which for the Yellow Shadow Collective included two of the largest towns at the time, Westminster and Simp Central, along with other smaller towns like David Town and the Holy Verith Empire. The original capital of this group was the small town of Ibiza, which was founded by War Heroes. However, this town would quickly stagnate, leading War Heroes to move the capital to the also small and unknown town of Green Isles, while looking for a better place to put the capital of the Alliance. Around this time was also the creation of Gentry Island, a group originating from TGN made up of players very skilled in PvP. Gentry was known for being the town that had the most amount of banned players being a part of it, and for members of the group hunting down other players and killing them. This brings us to March, where Ninobf joins TG for the first time, having been working on the town of Sintra on TGN 1.14. Nino, despite having been the leader of Opportunity and founding the town of Sintra on the reset immediately succeeding Opportunity, he did not want it to be considered a true successor to the town, leading him to create a new town to succeed Opportunity on 1.15, dubbed Curiosity, founded by himself, Gerbil City, and Burb on the way. Curiosity very quickly became the largest town on the server, bringing people in with its massive intricate builds, dozens of farms, competent active leadership, and constant advertising. Its Discord would become the pseudo-main Discord of the entire TG server, as TG was only given a single channel in the entire r/teenagers Discord server, which it had to share with the entire topic of Minecraft as a whole. This trend of Nino creating a town that quickly became the largest on the server, with the Discord of said town being the pseudo-main Discord of the entire TG server, would be a recurring theme throughout all of TG, from 1.15 all the way to TG's final reset of 1.17. The town of Quay Hills would also be founded around this time by the player Teo Renzua, a town that had very little build rules. Quay Hills developed an intense rivalry with Curiosity, as the two competed to be the larger town. Both Curiosity and Quay quickly rose to become some of the largest towns on the server. Outside of these two towns, March also had two integral events that happened simultaneously, which drew in thousands of players to the server. The coronavirus pandemic had just recently been ramping up, and lockdowns began all over the globe in an attempt to stop the spread of the virus, leaving billions of people stuck in their homes, leading to Minecraft resurging in popularity. At the same time, player VTD celebrated their birthday on TG, and decided to share this on r/teenagers with an image of the party and the name of the server. The post went viral on r/teenagers, bringing in thousands of players to the server and heavily ramping up activity. However, secretly, it was not VTD's birthday at all, and the entire thing was a ruse. With April, the Yellow Shadow Collective collapsed. This happened after the collective moved their capital from Green Isles to Curiosity, where the Yellow Shadow Collective constructed a large structure dedicated to itself, built by Ninobf. This build would have the owner of the collective, War Heroes, and the owner of Curiosity, Ninobf, arguing about the collective's building rights within the town. It got to the point where Nino had decided to formally pull Curiosity out of the Yellow Shadow Collective. At the same time, player Unethical Voxel decided to make a rival group to the collective known as the United Nations. Not to be confused with the TGN leader group, also called the United Nations, or the group of small towns on TG Earth called the United Minecraft Nations, three very different groups. War Heroes and Voxel argued over this group, which somehow led to Voxel gaining control over the collective. With this power, Voxel attempted to delete the Yellow Shadow Collective's Discord, but was unable to. After both of these events, however, the other towns that made up the collective lost faith in the group, which led to the collective being disbanded, with the collective existing for around a week, achieving very, very little. Early in May of 2020 was the creation of the Foley Room, a mysterious Discord channel in the Curiosity Discord named after the moderator Mario Foley. What goes on in the Foley Room is unknown, and the mystery surrounding it became very well known on TG as a threatening and spooky place. Later in May, TG was forever changed by the introduction of the Geyser plugin, which allowed Minecraft Bedrock players to play on the natively Minecraft Java server. This allowed both Java and Bedrock players to play on the same server. Most Java players were against this addition, falsely believing the Bedrock players caused performance drops, and that Bedrock players were playing on the lesser version. Because of this belief, several books later on in 1.16 were written by Titaniumcow that gained popular hold over the server, calling for a Bedrock player genocide or re-education camps. There was even one recorded instance of a Bedrock player being publicly executed in the name of Java supremacy. On May 29th, the town of No Name would be founded by a player named Scotch Tape, who secretly was TGN player Bopalopian in disguise, and quickly rose to become one of the largest towns on the server. No Name would switch hands often, going from Bopalopian to AFK Cyndaquil to ABlazingEboy, but despite this constant change in leadership, frequent advertising brought in many new players, allowing it to rise to the top. Back to 1.15 though, around this time, the same player, Titaniumcow, would form the corporation of TV Corp, after repeating the phrase, "Do you want to buy a TV?" over and over and over again over the course of a few weeks. TV Corp would make no profits and never sell a TV, but would be well known on the server for being a thing that exists. May would also be the month where the town of Quay Hills would collapse. This was due to a decline in the town's population, the town's mayor Teo evicting most of the town, the Discord being practically erased, and other more minor factors. This led to Quay being heavily griefed and filled with withers, an issue that was never solved. Quay Hills, even on the archive, remains in this heavily griefed state, ruins of its one pristine state. TG player WinterStars would also construct a megastructure on 1.15, the Nether End Island, a recreation of the End Island built on the Nether roof. This would be the first of many End Island creations by WinterStars, like Mistake on 1.16. The actual End Island in the End on 1.15 was also destroyed months prior, replaced with a large black glass disc full of builds. In June, TGN would finally take its last breath, as the server would be permanently shut down at the end of the 1.14 reset, on the 12th of June, 2020. Reasons for this shutdown were not provided in its announcement, but the issues that led to this are presumed to be monetary. With TGN now closed, we move back to TG, where two community hubs were created. The subreddit, r/teenagers server, founded by VTD, providing TG its own subreddit where members could post about the server outside of r/teenagers, where any post about the Minecraft server would be drowned out by other posts on the subreddit. The TG Wiki was also created by player Cooopl, and behaved very similarly to the TGN Wiki, but with the TG Wiki being much more expansive, reputable, and organized. The TG Wiki today remains the main wiki for TGX as a whole, even being renamed to the TGX Wiki later on. However, most of its information still revolves around TG. The next month, in July of 2020, Ghost Town would be founded by Fun for the Whole Fam, a town known notably for having very lax rules on builds and citizenship compared to other towns, allowing the town to grow significantly despite the town's short lifespan, gaining 24 members from one within the span of a couple weeks in the final days of the server. That same month, player iiEthan Swag would begin work on a texture pack based on TG. This included several changes to mobs and blocks based on TG players, like changing cacti to look like player Daskipper, who likes cactuses, and cows to Boom the Cow and Titaniumcow. After a few texture changes, however, this would be discontinued. In preparation for Anarchy, the megastructure known as Y7K was constructed by player XGodStatus, a massive citadel built deep into the jungle, made of wood and stone, located on the coordinates 7,000, 7,000, giving it its name. This would be the first megastructure built on TG, a small appearance for what would eventually be commonplace on 1.16. Later, in July of 2020, it was announced that 1.15 would shut down and be reset in preparation for the 1.16 server. Before this happened, however, the world would be downloaded, and in a week preceding the download, the server would enter Anarchy, an event where PvP toggle would be turned off and griefing would become legal. For 1 week, 1.15 devolved into this hell, where every major town, including Curiosity, No Name, Ghost Town, Sim Central, Westminster, and more would be completely destroyed, with lava casts, withers, and craters dotting the 1.15 landscape. The town of Ghost Town prepared for this event by building two bunkers, Replica and Decoy. The second, acting as the name suggests, a decoy for the real bunker. Despite this plan, Ninobf and Zegmaster were able to both find and destroy the two. This would really be the only notable event on the 1.15 Anarchy, as the rest of the time happened as expected, with massive and total destruction. Then, on August 14th, 2020, 1.15 was shut down, with 1.16 opening up the next day on August 15th, 2020.